So hello and welcome to Blood on the Tamesis catch-up chats. So this is a set of recordings that we decided to do because due to the nature of the apocalypse and other things going on, Season 2 actually ended quite a long time ago, and in the gap between the two we've had various one-shots and we've had a mini-series and lots of excitements, and it suddenly occurred to me that it was actually a much bigger gap than we normally have between seasons. So partly for our benefit and hopefully partly for yours, we're going to have a series of kind of relaxed catch-ups with each of our players to find out kind of where they were and where they're going to go next. So with me today we have Bex.
Hello.
Who, as I'm sure you know, plays Velvet Riley in Tamesis. So without too much further ado, what I was going to ask you, Bex, was if you could just talk to us a little bit about where Velvet was at the end of Season 2.
Yeah, so obviously right at the end of Season 2 there was all sorts of drama. And the prince died, which was a thing I don't think Velvet expected at all to happen. But he had, I guess, something of an apocalypse of his own, because in the lead up to this, he had been very reckless, like he normally is. But he, I think probably as a result of the blood bond between he and Adam, had been more reckless than maybe he was before. And this kind of came to the attention of Sir Wallace, which did not go well for Velvet. So that kind of had a big impact on his series last time. And at the end of the last series, he had started to cultivate together a group of like-minded people who were all people who might be interested in doing something about Sir Wallace. So that was sort of where he was. And I think as well, sorry, go on.
Sorry to jump in. I was just going to say, I should have probably said spoilers, obviously.
Yes.
But I think anyone listening to a recap of Season 2 must know that.
Yes.
So you touched on the fact that, of course, Adam, who is another Ventru in the city, and Velvet have a blood bond, which has been one of the main kind of storylines for Velvet through the first 2 seasons.
Yep.
And that, of course, the tension between their secret love affair and Velvet and Wallace, as in Velvet's sire, have been kind of ramping up through Season 2.
Yeah.
So you were just saying that he has sort of started to speak to like-minded people, because it turns out, surprise, surprise, that Velvet is not the only person that has an issue with Wallace.
Well, knock me down with a feather. So he I don't think was surprised to discover this, but I think that he really had the driver for this after Wallace sent Seth to kidnap Adam. That I think he's quite young in terms of his vampiric life. He's still quite naive. He didn't imagine that would be a route that Wallace would take to deal with this. And so that is kind of really a driver. And I think kind of where he ended up at the end of last series, he's realised there's maybe an opportunity in this, because that there's a lot of disarray in Oxford at the moment, and that means that perhaps there are some opportunities that wouldn't normally exist for him to pursue this. But I guess there is a question as to whether or not these like-minded people will be in exactly the same frame of mind as him, or will have perhaps slightly different opinions on what should happen to Sir Wallace.
Yeah, so we're partly kind of referring, I suppose, the fact there was the duel at the end of Season 2.
Yep.
The result of that duel is that Prince Helena now controls Reading and Oxfordshire. However, there are many people who are unhappy about this. And, when you're talking about opportunities, of course, there's lots of room for political power to shift back and forth that Velvet could take advantage of. There is also, which is where I suspect you were going more, a period of chaos where people who wanted to do things they maybe shouldn't be doing have more chance of getting away with it than they
I
might
mean,
ordinarily.
shouldn't be doing. That's like a moral perspective, right? I mean, I think you're right. He's got a few decisions to make about this, and I think it'll be interesting to see what he does. Certainly, I think he needs to decide whether or not he wants to stay in Oxford. I mean, it's worth saying that Prince Helena said at the end of the last session that basically people needed to, kind of I think we had a month to decide what we were
That's
doing.
right, yeah.
So, but of course, there's an additional point to that because Velvet's son Freddie lives in Oxford, and that is not something that he wants to up and leave very easily. But of course, the drive to be out of the way of Wallace is a powerful one. So there's a couple of options there. I'm sure he'll invent more options by the time we get into the season.
So we know that Velvet has kind of been gathering this motley crew, including people
Motley
like
crew. Yep.
Brick and Barnaby
Yep.
and Soap.
Yep. All the ne'er-do-wells.
All the ne'er-do-wells, and Adam, of course.
And Adam, he was not a ne'er-do-well, obviously.
No, he's a very, very
He's a very beautiful man, yeah.
So I suppose the question is, we've got a sense of maybe where Velvet is a little bit. What's Velvet, not necessarily exactly what he's going to do, but what is Velvet trying to achieve in season 3? What does he want to do in an ideal world by the end of season 3?
What Velvet wants to do is be safe. And I don't mean I do mean physically safe, but I mean he is a man who wants to kind of, live a quiet life and not have, not be in fear for his safety or the safety of the people that he loves. And that includes Freddie, and that includes Adam, and actually that also includes the coterie. And
all of the coterie?
Yeah, no. So certainly will include Theo. I think. I'm just trying to think. I think includes Silas, and I'm slightly confused about Joanne, but I'll be honest, that's because I can't remember whether these are things I know as myself or whether they're things that Velvet knows. So I need to,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Velvet knew even half of what Joanne's been up to, I suspect that would be
a problematic
bit of a disaster
thing
for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, he certainly cares a great deal about Theodore, who he looks up to, and who he will try to help. And he did have at the end of last series, he'd agreed to help Theo with the blood bond with Miyuki. Mm-hmm. And so but I guess the running theme of that is safety. I mean, he doesn't want to live in this world, and but he understands that that's not a thing that's changing. I guess part of his thinking process is all about whether or not if he went somewhere else anything would really be any different. But since he's been told how super awesome, amazing Oxford is, and how lucky he is to be there, then he doesn't know anything about anywhere else particularly. So I guess that's his goal. His goal is keep myself and the people I love safe.
Cool. So, well, obviously, I'm completely impartial on these things, but I'm sure many of the people who listen will be rooting for Velvet to find safety and to clock Wallace. And that
man needs a shiv, right?
That's a man in need of a shiv.
He is needing, yeah.
To find out what happens, you can hopefully all join us on the 29th of June for season 3. And we will look forward to seeing you there.
Indeed.
Bye.
Bye.